Yo, what is up, everybody? Good to see everybody in the house today. Today we're gonna have a good one. There's a lot that's just went down. We just got a verdict in the Paltrow case, so we'll be talking about that a little bit. And we'll be getting into this indictment. We've got an indictment on Trump. We'll be getting a TikTok ban and everything else as soon as my my kosher friend is late, and of course, never flexible and Jack Murphy. But it is good to see everybody here in the chat today and break this thing down today. So what's up to everybody here? Also, just a quick shout out to my locals people. Appreciate y'all. It's been really weird with the notifications. So if you want to join us on locals, you're kind of that degenerate type of person, you want to drop the memes, I'm posting that in the chat for anybody. I think Steven Crowder broke locals the other day. They're aware of the issue, but you know, things happen. So if you guys want to head over there, drop that in the chat for those that are interested. So let's jump right into it, and I'll actually handle one thing beforehand. So I want to make something clear. So I actually put out a video on this Reedy Creek situation. Now, as you guys know, I'm probably the only guy who knows what the fuck I'm talking about. So I put out a video prior to getting all the information back from my public records request. I now have all the documents. So I have the documents here so you can see, and let me just share this with you guys so you guys see this. But I've got the actual declaration of restrictive covenants. I'm going to go through this. I will have another detailed video with the full breakdown of the restrictive covenants and what Disney's trying to do and all the shiesty stuff that Disney's trying to do. I will have a better video out later. Now, nothing I said in my initial video is wrong. It was just my preliminary assessment without even having seen the documents. But now that I see them, they're very much confirming what I was saying before. So I'm going to do a full document breakdown, show you how these things don't work. Break down all the lies that are being put out about this. Some people are saying, "Oh, it's a DeSantis own Disney taking a W." I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just kind of spurging out on Twitter, and it's hilarious. So we're gonna cover that later, just so everybody knows. And I've got that full document. It's actually the parts of it that actually apply are actually only very short. They're not that long. Let's also talk about one other thing I want to bring up while we're waiting for Joe. Tomorrow, I normally don't do Friday streams, but tomorrow I am going to be doing a launch stream for my channel, Go East Gentlemen. So if you guys are subscribed to that channel, I'll be doing kind of, and I don't do these that often on YouTube, but I'm going to be doing an AMA, kind of a launch party and an AMA. I may see if I have any guests, but mainly it's going to be for me to AMA any questions that anybody might have, and just, hang out with you guys, talk Asia, talk hilarious shit, just kind of have fun. That'll be on my other channel, Go East Gentlemen. I may do a short stream on this channel and feed it into that one. But if you go over here and click on the AMA, that's scheduled for tomorrow. So you can catch that bad boy tomorrow morning on Go East Gentlemen. So if you want to hang out, talk Asia, go over to Go East, subscribe. We'll do a fun AMA tomorrow. Should have a great time. All right. So that's all the preparatory stuff. Now, the first thing we got to get to is the big T. Right, we've got to talk about this. And before Joe gets here, I just want to say, I think I'm right on this one. Before Joe gets here, I want to say I'm right, because Joe's going to probably interrupt me and try to say, "Oh, well, they didn't indict him fast enough." But I believe Joe's position, and we can go back and check the Carfax, and I know you guys can remember this as well. I believe Joe's position was they wouldn't do it. And I thought that they could. It was just whether they would. And it's because of exactly what Canon Hotep says here. Trump just won 2024. By doing this, they lend all the credence and all the strength to his narrative. Once we actually go into this, I think it's going to only empower Trump. But I think that's clearly going to be the way it happens to be. In terms of the PR response. Because look, once you actually dig into it, and we talked about this, I talked about this last week, I've talked about this week. Once you actually dig into what he's being charged with, it is ridiculous. It is elections reporting. That's not something that, first of all, it's a misdemeanor, right? Not something that you go and throw someone in jail for 40 years. And they're always trying to make Trump sound like he's some sort of high criminal. But that's not what this is. It is fantastic PR for Trump. They're not really thinking critically. Once again, they want to see Trump in the handcuffs. They want to see Trump thrown away. But even their own people, even their own periodicals, like they'll acknowledge the fact that that's not going to happen. In fact, there's a really good, once again, these liberal rags, they can sometimes put out things and infographics that are decent. So, this is actually a pretty good little flow chart here. And I love how they probably had to put this out because everybody thinks that he's going to get arrested against his will, thrown against the floor, cuffed. The officers are going to jump on him. It's going to be in public. But they're all going to be disappointed because they've all been gaslit, right? They've all been told, oh, yes, this is totally going to happen. You're going to get that. You're going to get that shot. No, voluntary surrender. It's when you show up, and almost every public figure goes that route. You set a time, you show up. He's with the frickin' Secret Service. They show up, they do the fingerprinting, they do the photograph, right? It's not going to be the same way. And then you get the arraignment and the pre-trial hearings. But once again, he's not going to jail for any of this. Yeah. So that's I think where the biggest mistake is in this is thinking that they're going to get that hands on the pavement. He's going to look like a white, if it's not too soon, he's going to look like a white George Floyd. That's not going to happen. Yeah, exactly. They have not looked at many other people's taxes. So like looking at where they spend their money and how they spend their money. And yes, this isn't exactly a tax thing, but it's very similar to most tax offenses. So if you, for example, mischaracterize your business expenses, that's about on the same level as what we're talking about here. Whether or not this was an election expense or a non-election expense, very, very small. But speaking of somebody who is never small and whose opinion is large enough to fill the entire rebuilt temple, it's my good friend, John.
How are you, my friend?
Good. Are you voluntarily surrendering right now to the New York police now that we have an indictment? You're just saying, look, if he's going down, I'm going down with him?
We never talk about what we're going to cover. We never talk about what we're going to cover. And it's like, and the tricky part is this. The tricky part is I have to figure out what am I going to cover with you and then cover something else on my show that I sort of want to prep beforehand. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, because I don't want to talk about the same thing twice.
But if the news is big, then the news is big,
No, I understand that. No, that definitely makes sense.
This is the orange-haired gorilla in the room.
I'm just saying, like, I just finished my thumbnail before I got in here. And there you go.
Yeah. No, but I mean, look, you're going to be able to talk about this for hours.
Yeah.
And by the way, we did talk about this for hours last week on your show.
That's true. I think we could talk about this for a month now.
No, yeah, everybody in LawTube is going to be grifted. This is, when you get some things, in fact, they're big enough. Everybody grifts on it. If you're Amber Heard level, Trump level, these are things that are going to be everybody in LawTube.
I was like, how is he not going to cover it? And how do I not talk about it on my own show?
No, I changed my title last second when I saw this was an update. I woke up.
What's our new title? Trump Indictment, TikTok, Patriot Act, and the CCP agenda.
Yes, we gotta always talk about the agendas. So I just want to just get right into it. Like, what do you think this means, other than Trump 2024? Because, by the way, I 100% agree. The chat is in agreement. The super chats are in agreement here. That left doesn't think they feel 100%. Sean, that's 100% here. What do you think happens in terms of process here? Like, how are you painting this out in terms of how this plays out?
It makes a very big difference whether he's been indicted with a felony or misdemeanor. That's a really big thing. And it's a little curious to me that they haven't said felony. Isn't that
I think it's a misdemeanor. I think it's a misdemeanor.
Which, a misdemeanor in New York, I believe, has a maximum of, I'm not sure, 6 months or 1 year. And if it's simply a misdemeanor, how much bigger a stain on the face of Alvin Bragg is that like you're trying to catch a former president on a misdemeanor? Like seriously, like you're trying to catch a former president.
Yeah.
It's so humiliating.
Look, the truth about this is going to come out, right? I think at surface level, they kind of teased people in with the fact, oh, he's charged with a crime. It's a crime.
Right. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in.
He's going to be a criminal. And then they realize, okay, well, what is the crime? That's going to come out, right? That's going to eventually, you're going to have to report on what it is. And the more you report on it, the more it sounds patently ridiculous that you're charging him with this. I mean, the left in the mainstream media is going to do their best job to jazz it up as the worst offense in the books, as a tantamount to treason. But even they can't put too much lipstick on this pig. I mean, you can't make a misdemeanor.
Have you seen some of the pigs they try slapping lipstick on? Because they got a lot of lipstick in that arsenal. They're like they're like the beauticians of the world. They can't. There's no pig too ugly for them to slap it on and scream, "Oh my God, stunning and brave!" So yeah. I don't know. I guess I've seen old men dressed as 7-year-old girls. So yeah.
You'll see 7-year-old girls dressed as old men, and if they have their way.
There's no shortage of lipstick. There's no lipstick shortage. God.
Well, these guys are certainly going to. They're certainly going to make this into a bigger thing, as we go along. The one thing I am shocked about is that we talked about it last week, and you said it, that Congress is kind of intervening, looking down the throat on this, and you said that might have stopped it. I think, if anything, that maybe delayed it, right? Maybe we were supposed to get it last week, and because of Congress, we got it this week. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, on why we got the timing?
Because
pretty much precisely
because the Restrict Act, that the Restrict Act is what tied into this.
I don't know. Not necessarily the Restrict Act, I would think, but maybe they were putting pressure on Alvin Bragg.
Oh, so this was his way of reacting and saying, "Oh, you're not going to pressure me into not doing it. Here comes my indictment."
Yeah, maybe, or doing it later, doing it this week instead of last week.
I don't see how that would take any heat. Is the notion that he's giving a thumbs up, or the notion that he's caving? Like, I'm not sure what the notion. I'm not even sure which notion.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think it would have been that he said yes ultimately, or said "fuck you, I'm doing it anyways." That was where he was ultimately going with this. Was that he was always going to try to push this through.
There's no way to. He was definitely always going to try to push this through. That's why he brought it in the first place.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, that's what I got on this one. I think look, people are freaking out, and some people are like, "Oh my God!" Look, in terms of the effects of this. Look, I don't think people are going to be out there. I mean, yes, people will be outside the courtroom, anytime that Trump comes anywhere near it, right? There'll be the pro and the anti, again, outside any courtroom, any place where Trump is ever, right? So that's going to be a thing. But I don't think there's going to be civil war. It's not going to happen, no matter how many times Tim Pool or anybody else says it. I don't think this is the event. This is
This is not the hill that people are going to die on.
No, it's not big enough, right? It's not large enough. This is not treason. They're not trying to execute the man. This is a much smaller scale. And in a way, almost, I think for Trump, if it was bigger, if it was a felony, that's actually better for Trump because it looks worse in terms of a PR standpoint. So
that's an interesting philosophical question. Which would be better for him? We all agree this is going to help Trump. Is it better if it's a misdemeanor or if it's a felony? Why would you say it's better if it's a felony?
Well, let's think about this. So if you yell and scream, "I'm being unjustly prosecuted," and you turn around and the people look and it's a speeding ticket, right? People are like, "It's a speeding ticket. Just deal with it, pay it, and go away," right? It's a smaller infraction. It's just okay, whatever. It's small, like who cares? Versus if it's a severe one, if it's murder, right? If it's deprivation of your life, your liberty, or you're going to Old Sparky, you're going to be hung, you're going to face the firing squad. You can really raise the injustice. It raises the urgency. It doesn't feel the same sense of urgency if you say, "Yeah, he could get 6 months in jail." It's like, okay, and he'll be out before the election, even if he served every day of it, which he never will, right? It just doesn't raise the same amount of indignation, of righteous indignation that you want from your base.
No, and I see what you're saying. I'm trying to think this through because I could see a pro and a con each way. And here's where I'm coming from. Yeah, I understand that you're right. There's a lot more gravity to a felony, which makes him look like he's being persecuted. But I think there's sufficient gravity to him being, charged and imagine a whole trial for a misdemeanor. Can you even imagine the press frenzy, the public frenzy? There would be plenty of public frenzy, and there's no way he would be forced to serve a year or something like that. As opposed to if there is a felony, then you can see that, this is a way more serious crime, and it could be more difficult for him to access the public, because he has to be in lockdown certain times and things like that. It could be a much more difficult thing for him to have an opportunity to milk this to the same effect that he would have just time and availability if it's merely misdemeanor. So I could see, I that's what I'm saying. I see pros and cons to either way that this falls. I don't look at it as being, I don't know that either, and whichever way it falls, we're never going to know whether it would have been better the other way. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we try to speculate which is the best, and then even after the benefit of hindsight, it's almost impossible to tell and say, "Wow, it would have been better if it was the other way," because you don't know. It could have been worse the other way. So it's hard. It's very speculative, but I think it's interesting to discuss and sort of break down for people to think about. Like, hey, you know what? This is probably how things would play out differently in scenario B that didn't come to pass rather than scenario A that has come to pass. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. An alternative world, right? Like where we had X versus Y, right? Could this have happened, right? Would this have pushed him over the edge? I mean, especially if, and God forbid, I fucking hope it's not. I really hope it's not. If the election is close, right? Let's just say that. I think that's very safe to say. If the election is close by totally legitimate means, right? I think that makes you get into those what if scenarios. Like, what if it was X? What if it was Y? Would that have drummed up enough support to push him over the barrel? Right. Yeah. Although I'd say I think in a fair election, my bet is still that in a Trump-Biden fair election, I don't think it should be a contest. That's my personal opinion.
Obviously. I mean, come on. The only one who thinks that Biden isn't a walking disaster is Rob Reiner. I mean, come on.
Pretty much. Even
the left is having a hard time shilling for him at this point. I mean, I thought I'm only referencing Reiner because he actually called him called Biden the best president in the last 60 years. And
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, at this point, I think he must be gaslighting intentionally. Like he can't actually believe some of the stuff that he's saying. I mean, even if he likes Biden or he wants people like to call him the best president, they're gaslighting. They're gaslighting. Yes. This is like they know this is complete fictitious, and they are intent. They're just outright lying to their sheep.
Well, they're trying to push it, and they're trying to make people believe it. I mean, the media has gotten this strategy, and this is a time-tested strategy. If you keep saying something, it's you try to make it true, and people do actually psychologically when they're saying it's okay. Everybody is trans, right? That they're saying that Trump is guilty of a crime. Trump is a criminal. When you say it enough, people actually start believing it, particularly if you all sync up and a bunch of people are saying it and you say, oh, everybody believes this, right? You try to make it sound like you try to make it believe versus the reality is, which is most people are not idiots and they know that Trump is completely innocent of those crimes, and they can look at that if they look at the facts. But when the media is telling you, you begin to doubt yourself. You think, okay, you know, maybe he is the best one. That actually reminded me of a tweet I saw the other day. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I saw it and I laughed. I think this was one that Ron Coleman retweeted. I was saving it for you, Joe. Which is I don't know if you've seen this guy. Hilarious. This Michael Beals, who calls himself Joe Biden's rabbi, but you know, Joe Biden is a mensch. Let's put a mensch in the White House. This guy, it's hilarious because I know you call him a gino right away because he's one of those that not only, first of all, it's the dopiest thing ever.
I don't know that I would call him a gino. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you.
You know
why.
him. You know this guy.
No, I don't. I don't know that guy at all.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, to me, a gino is someone who only remembers that they're Jewish when there's a way to twist something into being labeled anti-Semitism. Yep. That's what I mean. In other words, it's like, whoa, someone just made like a joke about Jews. Now I became Jewish. But like the rest of the time, they're never ever Jews, other than their name might be something like Goldstein or something like that.
True.
So if he's like actually trying to use Judaism, I don't know that I would call him a gino, but I would still call him a crazy like
he's a crazy yes and it's still early in the morning, so I'm getting my terms mixed up here.
That's okay. No, I didn't really find it. You gave me
in an article.
I find it for the first time. So
in a comment, I saw someone call him a momser, and I'm like, Joe explained that term to me. I'm like, Joe's the one who explained that term to me. I learned that from Joe. You know. So I was like,
I used to use that all the time to like sixth grade, and then one time, my mom got mad at me for like using the word. Like she was like, I don't know.
Is it like an F bomb in the?
It sort of is. It sort of is.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of. It's she. I don't know. I don't know what it was that bothered her about it so much.
Okay.
But yeah, whatever.
Anyways, the guy went out. By the way, the thing that was controversial about him is he went out and founded this camp where he pretty much wanted to raise young Israelis, young Jews, to be kind of self-hating. So, you know, to realize all the bad that they did to Palestine and how they're evil people for what they're doing to Palestine.
Did he try touching them also, or he just wanted to?
No, that's a Biden thing. He saves that for Biden. So anyway, let's get to another. Kivit on Personal said, didn't vote Trump in 1620, voting for him in 24 now. Wow. Honestly, that's actually really intriguing to me. Like,
why would someone not vote for him in 20?
Yeah, in 20, but 24. And maybe, okay, here's what I can think. Was it the bug, right? Because I think the pandemic had people panicking and saying, we're going to do something different, you know, just to get this over. And the way we end it is to go by going with Biden. I think there was a significant number of people that
That's
said,
an interesting thought.
I want to go back to normal, and normal is with this guy.
Right.
And because this other guy, he's gonna have us going one way. And remember, the election was at the height of when they were gaslighting us about the science, when they were telling us that all these things, which now we know for a fact are not true. I'm not going to say exactly what. We all know what we're talking about, but the things they were pushing, we know were not true, that they were pushing at that time. They've updated the science since then.
The science has learned.
The science has learned. So, you know, I can see that. That's the one group of people that I can see flipping. And by the way, you don't need that many people to flip. You only need, well, you know, maybe 1 million between a couple jurisdictions, and it seems like you got the election. That's my personal.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Also, it's possible that the level of anxiety that was there against Trump in 2020 may not be as high in 2024.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that there's not going to be Trump anxiety in 2020?
There will definitely be. Don't mistake what I said. There will certainly be greater anxiety of Trump than there would be of any other Republican nominee. However, back in like you just pointed out with the pandemic, basically they tried to paint it as if Trump gets reelected, this is an existential crisis for America's health. that we'll all that do you remember the daily running tallies of how many dead Americans there are? We used to have every single day that ended
the red letters,
yeah. that no one saw them ever again as after January 20th, 2021. So yeah, that daily counting of thing, basically trying to tell Americans, if we reelect him, you or a family member are probably gonna die.
Oh, and they were gonna roll. And by the way, they would have rolled that death count every single day until they could,
If he was sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania right now, everyone would know exactly how many Americans have allegedly been killed from
because flu went to 0. That was in that Fauci video.
Right.
It was like, yeah, we had no flu last year. We had 0. And it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, Fauci.
Yeah.
It just was extinct now.
Yeah.
Great. Let's here we go. Britt says, Britt Cormier says, Joe equals Gino, except for weekend when he wants to get hammered. Pure facts. Don't try to deny it. It only makes you look more guilty, Joe. You're only getting more guilty. Speaking of guilty, or rather not guilty, I want to get over to this one because I know nothing about this case. So I watched the verdict. Gwyneth Paltrow won her ski case. The jury awarded her $1 for a countersuit. She was not liable.
She won the dollar.
All.
That's a big deal.
She won the dollar. She was not liable at all. So
the dollar is very pivotal. I'm not making a joke. I'm serious.
Because tell the people why, Joe.
The dollar is pivotal because the point to the dollar was once she wins, now that dollar, she can recover her attorney's fees that were incurred in order to recover that dollar. So if she spent $250,000 on attorney's fees, she now can sue him to recover that money. And he actually probably has some assets. He's a doctor. He was an optometrist. So he probably has some assets. That was a very, very important dollar. It's not like, verdict against both. And I'll tell you something. When he took the stand, I said, this dude lost. He's done. I gave him a lot of credit. It didn't. There was certain moments there where I was like, I don't know that I'm trusting his story here. There was certain things which just didn't. I have to sort of look back at his testimony or my coverage of it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's why. Because when he's describing it, some of the things about that she expressed herself, like she's sort of giving like she's giving it over in a way that it's like you can see her reliving the moment inside of herself. Now, do I think that she was yelling at him? Oh, I remember what it was. This guy basically, when he's telling his story over, so understand, he's trying to paint a picture. Now, he basically said that he's face down in the snow, and he's like, yeah, I said I was all right. And, they were asking if I was all right. I said I was all right. And then and then they, because I was scared, I was intimidated. Okay, that could be. He's trying to placate someone who he thinks is going to be a threat to him. But then when he's telling the story 3 minutes later, he's still face down in the snow. And I'm like, well, how did anyone hear you saying you're all right if you're face down in the snow? Like the whole timeline that he was giving over there, it wasn't making sense. And I had questions about the way she told her story. I had questions about that because, her ski instructor is saying that he's crossing over the whole slopes, and she's saying that his skis are coming. 2 skis are sliding behind her for some sort of distance, and she doesn't know what's happening there. And I was like, if he's crossing over and she's not, you would think that his skis would cross her skis. It wouldn't really. That's not really something that makes much sense. But between him, he had to prove it. Burden of proof was on him. So if it's 50-50, he loses.
Well, it was now let me be clear. It was assigned 100% on him by the jury. So I did listen to the jury verdict. They assigned 100% liability to him, not to Paltrow. So
and that leads me to believe one other thing, which is they had video, which was produced like a cartoon, but like CGI cartoon that was presented by Paltrow, created by Paltrow's team, which was definitely poor video as far as actually showing what's happening there, because Paltrow herself admitted that there were multiple people on the slopes. And in the video, all you see is her and her family and Sanderson. So and then they're describing he's crossing over back and forth across the whole thing there. Well, she admitted there's a whole bunch of people on the slopes. So it makes you question how that would have happened. And they said, we're not submitting this as evidence because it's not evidence, but we want it to be like sort of a descriptive aid to the jury. Well, if you're a juror and you're trying to figure out what happened, and all of a sudden someone shows you what's something that's called a descriptive aid, when you're thinking back to what happened, all you're doing is you're picturing that descriptive aid. That becomes so powerful in bolstering the testimony of the witness who's being aided with this descriptive device that it's like it becomes more powerful than evidence. And I said, there's no way a jury is going to find for him after seeing that descriptive aid, especially because there were issues with his story.
Was that also what convinced you? Because I see a couple people saying that you changed your position, Joe. That you were no. One way and you went another. So was that what changed it for you? I started
off not really trusting her story because I had problems with her story.
Okay.
Then I heard his story, and I said, I'm now at 50-50 as to which one of them is lying. One of them has to be lying because there's two completely conflicting stories. One of them has to be lying. I really don't know for sure which. I really can't tell which one is.
That's a good case, by the way. That's a good case, right? You're just describing right there what the essence of a good case. It is one story versus another story. Only one can be true. One person is lying. You know, like that is a great case, actually. In terms of like interesting case.
And that he pushed me. I said, if you only got me now at the last witness on behalf of the plaintiff to a 50-50 status, that means you lost because you have to get over 50%. You have to get over preponderance of the evidence. So you didn't cross that hurdle. You lost the case. And then the next day is when they started putting those descriptive aids up. And I was like, that's wrong. That's not fair. That's so powerful in destroying him that I was like, okay, I don't think he should win. I don't think he has any chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, I don't think he should win, so it's not the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like that's basically where I came to. But it wasn't the A's that got me there. I was on with Megan Fox when that video was there, and I spent an hour just like, this is so wrong. Oh my god, how can anyone see anything else? If you watch the video, you can't. It becomes fact. And Megan Fox was arguing. She's like, no, everyone knows. And then she DM'd me 2 days later. She's
everyone knows what? Everyone knows what?
That's not what happened. It's just a descriptive aid. Then she DM'd me 2 days later saying she's spoken to she's spoken to several different people, and every one of them is like, yeah, obviously Paltrow's not guilty. There's video evidence. And it's like, you see? That's how it comes across.
Yeah, and that's why I think those aids are very, 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 very dangerous. And I think we mentioned this. Like, that's why, even going back to Rittenhouse, with the back of the pinch and Zoom days, it's dangerous, especially when you are telling people what they are seeing, right? And you're saying this is how it happened, right? Like these crime scene reconstructions, very dangerous because people will overly rely on that. Our brains are wired to really strongly rely on visual evidence, like pictures, especially video. We look at that and we're like, this is one-to-one. Our minds link it up. You can't paint the same picture with words. It just doesn't.
You saw the Baldwin video?
The Baldwin recreation video?
Yeah.
I've seen one of them.
Right. I'm saying is once you've seen that, now you sort of feel like you were there. You sort of feel like you know what it looked like.
Yeah.
So that was made by the plaintiff's attorney there very shrewdly, very wisely on their part to help basically poison a jury into thinking that he's guilty. So I tip my cap to the plaintiff's attorneys. I think they invested like $1 million.
This one here, right?
Yeah. Okay, you sort of feel like you've seen it. I know what happened. Why do I need to even have a trial? I know he's guilty.
Right. But that's because of this, right? It's like because of the reconstruction. It's not because of the actual facts.
You think you know, but you don't actually know, and certainly you don't know based on evidence that was properly submitted in a court and or vetted in any way, shape, or form.
But they get that mind worm in you. They dig that in there, and you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it.
It was the. I mean, frankly, that's the same thing with a lot of high impact ones. I'll even say it. I'll say it. The George Floyd video, right? That was in people's mind, whether or not it would have been entered into evidence. And ultimately, it was, right. Rittenhouse videos, those are in people's mind, right?
Right.
So when you get something in your mind, it's hard to remove those things from your mind.
As they said in Sherlock, you can never get an idea out of your head. You can never erase an idea.
It's very hard.
Were you a Sherlock? I'm a huge Sherlock fan. So like,
I've watched most versions of Sherlock.
The Benedict Cumberbatch version,
version. That was good. That was good.
That was really good.
Who was Watson again? I always forget that guy's name. Yes, he's good. He's fucking good. I like that guy.
And the Hobbit later on,
No, but I think one thing, celebrities trials are interesting because one thing is that, when you have a celebrity, particularly a well-liked celebrity, they do have a certain, I think, a gravity to them and a burden to them, especially if, you're coming in there liking Gwyneth. First of all, I don't think anybody doesn't know who Gwyneth Paltrow is. She's been in enough large movies. They probably knew who she was. I didn't watch the voir dire, but I'm sure that they acknowledge that they would know who she is. It's pretty hard to find somebody who wouldn't know who she is or be able to figure out pretty soon. And I think when you get somebody with that gravity, it's hard not to like them.
Oh my God! Even the plaintiff's attorney, she was fangirling all over her.
Yeah,
it was. She seemed like she was a fan. She's like laughing with her, and she's like complimenting her shoes and saying how she wishes she was as tall as Gwyneth. It was like it was weird. It was a whole thing. And the weird thing is she's actually a celebrity, as far as I understand, who some people really don't like her. They think she's
right. People are saying she's not well liked. She's a weak actress. She's not that good.
Right. She gets a lot of hate for the whole Goop thing also. I don't know if you're familiar with Goop. But
yes, I'm generally familiar with that, but I did not do a deep dive on that. I'm not the
You never did a deep dive on Goop?
No, that's the brand that involves your vajayjay, does it not?
Yeah, supposedly. Okay. Supposedly. Yeah.
Okay.
But these attorneys, I didn't really I didn't like either the plaintiff or defense counsel. I didn't like their work. And it's every time one of them spoke, I was hoping the other one would win because I was just like, God, you're so annoying in the way you're handling this whole thing. It was like, I don't like watching this trial because I want to see great attorneys do their thing. It's so much fun for me. It's like watching.
We want to see them fight. We're let them fight. We want to see you battle blood. We want the gladiator. We don't have a ring where I can see Maximus just like eviscerate Joe Biden. We don't have that. So we have to have the courtroom. That's where the battles are playing out in our modern eras in the courtroom.
I can never express to you the best battle I've ever seen between equally matched, brilliant attorneys was the Maxwell defense team versus district attorney, and that was
which is such a goddamn shame because nobody will ever see it.
Nobody. Except for the people. I'm the only attorney. Me and that guy Lee, who inner city press, we were the only attorneys who were not practicing that case who got to watch it from start to finish, and I sat there. I was just in awe. I was like, they're an inspiration to me as to how to be a better attorney. Almost every single one of them. I was just flabbergasted. During 3 weeks of trial, there was basically one mistake that was noticeable. One critical mistake that was made by the government that is an easy sort of mistake to make, but could have actually really hurt them. It didn't end up biting them in the butt, that they forgot to introduce a piece of evidence when they had to. But just the way they asked questions, the way they set things up, the way evidence was brought in there, the way they were efficient, the way that they're making powerful legal arguments, powerful arguments against each other. That when each one finished, you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And then the other one you'd be like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And you're like, you have damn respect for the fact that, you can present their case articulately, intelligently. And a lot of people hated her defense team just because they took that role of defending her. But I give kudos that they did fine work, and I'm happy that she got convicted. Sure, believe me.
No, I think that's a consistent thing. I think you have to be consistent. I think anybody who's not consistent about that is a fucking hypocrite.
With what?
And does not understand in terms of everybody being owed an absolutely effective, efficient defense, right? You should be able to hire a defense attorney who's going to go to bat for you.
Yeah.
People might think that's slimy, that's horrible. Oh my God, right? The wine moms are going to but guess what? That's our Constitution. Those are our rights. That's due process of how it works. We don't magically know whether people's mens rea.
Yeah.
If we could figure that out, okay, great. But first of all, I wouldn't trust, even if we were able to figure that out, like by a precog sort of thing, pre-crime minority report, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust who's pulling the levers of that system.
And I'll even go one step further. Judge Allison Nathan, who's famous for being a lesbian who was brought to the Second Circuit right after the Maxwell trial. I'm going to comment about her. She was phenomenal. She was fair. She was intelligent. She was reasonable. She kept the court. She kept the pace of the court moving. She was like, at 5 o'clock sharp, boom, you're done. One time she kept the jury till 5:01 and apologized that she ran late. Like that literally at 5:01 she's apologized. Like, I'm sorry that we ran a little late today. And she held the government's feet to the fire when they were trying to redact all these different names. She's like, why are you redacting all this? It doesn't make any sense to me. And she was very well reasoned. And it's something that I'm sure when she was brought up to the Second Circuit, a lot of people assumed that this was a diversity hire. And I don't know if it was or it wasn't, if that was a factor that played. I would assume it probably is a factor that played, but I am going to tell you this. That woman is one very intelligent, very fair judge from the work that I saw.
We need more of those. I mean, we need more good people. And frankly, I appreciate you saying that, because we need to call out the good and the bad, right? I actually talked about this last night when I was talking about Geeks and Gamers. I was saying with movies, right? You need good movies to highlight how bad the bad movies are, right? You need good people to highlight the bad. That's you always have to have that contrast, because it makes it more stark, right? Yeah. You don't, if all judges suck, then what's a good judge? You don't know. It's one that's slightly less bad. But
you need great podcasters like Legal Mindset who you should sub up to, so you can appreciate when you're watching someone who's just terrible.
To mediocre, right? You know, when you go over to Good Logic and get the mediocre cover.
Yes,
no, I'm joking.
Exactly.
Guys, everybody on today, all 646 of you, which by the way, only 250 is smash a like button. Let's get up to 400. We can do it, guys. Smash that like button here. You know, Joe and I are hated in the algorithm. We have to fight back somehow. Speaking of fighting back, let me get some of these super chats. Koro says for 30 says the doctor is not an ideal experience court personality. Paltrow's body language involvement with producer currently sitting in jail for history. Paltrow is guilty. I mean, that's what I guess that the counter argument I saw people in the chat saying is, look, Paltrow's a trained actor. You know, she's an actor. I mean, that's the true argument, right? Is that, hey, she's an actor.
Amber Heard. How believable was she?
I think that's a very good counterpoint. Although you could say
Paltrow was an Academy Award. She's an Academy Award.
Better actor than Amber. Amber was never a good actress. She was always there because she had the cocaine body and she liked to, you know. Anyways, she was. But
that's definitely
jumping
fair.
Around.
That's a fair response as well. I will simply point out she didn't have a script when she was being questioned by plaintiff's counsel, and. You know, she obviously had certain lines and things like that she wanted to work along. And I thought at certain times she came across a bit pretentious in an alienating way. And I don't know. And when I saw something that smelled like a flaw to me in her case, I pointed that out too. I could not feel less vested in that case than I did. And I was just like, I don't care who wins.
You weren't personally invested in that,
Who
Joe.
Cares? Your ego, why would I care?
It's a civil suit. It's at the end of the day, to be completely honest, civil suits, and one of the reasons why I am very reluctant to cover them, unless it's something like defamation, which is getting to the truth, is because at the end of the day, it's money, right? You know, it is important, right? And that is a product, right? Money. I'm a capitalist. That's a product of the value that you've exchanged, right, with others. I get that, right? But it's not the same stakes as if someone's life and liberty are on the line and they can be put away for, 40 years, 20 years, 10 years even. I think the stakes are a little higher. That's my personal opinion. Andrew, did you ever find a cure for the yellow fever? No, I am diving deeper into the jungle to find it. So thank you for that. $2, Duncans Fund. And
what does that mean?
When I'm translating, apparently, Joe, and I gotta get this. So on Rumble, I have $1 here, Paltrow Award from the Ghetto. So I have to say, my Rumble people have been calling themselves the Rumble Ghetto, and I heard you're responsible for that. So why are you putting people in the ghetto, Joe? I just really want to. It's problematic to me that we're creating this vicious cycle of shoving people in ghettos.
I've made amends with Rumble. I love Rumble folk. I have made amends and
how did you sackcloth and ashes this one, Joe?
I'll tell you how I fixed it. No,
how'd you fix it?
Okay, so you need to understand that when what we see happening right here and now, this instant on the screen monitor, we can see it ourselves. Doesn't look anything like what you see, and StreamYard gives us a feed of the chat, and they only give us a feed of chats from what they recognize, meaning YouTube, and Facebook. I don't know if you're streaming to Facebook or not. I started streaming to Facebook.
I have a less boomer argument, but hey, maybe
if someone types into Facebook chat, I would see that too. But for one reason or another, StreamYard does not yet work well with Rumble, which is why the entire Rumble chat does not come up in there. That's why I don't see the Rumble rants unless I specifically go there. Now, for the longest time, Rumble didn't enable us to pop out a chat. So I literally had to have a screen dedicated to just following the Rumble chat if I wanted to see it. But now we can pop the chat out. So you can basically just sort of have a little column of it that you sort of throw up there and keep a monitor on it while it's happening. And ever since that happened, I've worked much harder on making sure I'm interactive with my audience, no matter what side of the table they're on. So I don't care which way you lean. I don't care which way you bend. I don't care what your particular fetish is, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Rumble. It's fine. I'm there picking you up. And ever since then, I think I've been much better about it. But they felt very ghettoized for a while because
they did. They think they have a high crime rate. There's a lot of instances of violence going down there on Rumble. I mean, it's sad. It's really sad.
Maybe they felt I shoved them back into shtetl or something. I don't know. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, it was hard for me to keep track of them, and now I've released them from the ghetto, and I try to interact with them at least as much as I would anyone else on YouTube. So
cool.
There you go.
Sounds good. Rumble, we're cool, bro. We're cool. All right, let's move on. So one thing I really wanted to get from you, and this is kind of the title here, because I don't know if you've been following this at all, but we have some updates on this TikTok ban. But I wanted to go because you're the guy, you're the thinking man. So I really wanted to talk about this with you because there's a lot of ways to think about this. So just for the news update portion of it, right? We had a Rand Paul, helping block the bill that was going to ban TikTok, quote unquote. Of course, that was not the entire text of the bill.
No, that was.
Oh, no. Hold on. And this, of course, has been backed up. Holly, who was one who pushed it, is big mad, and it was stopped there. So, I guess I'll start there. It seems like you didn't understand.
There's two bills.
Okay, go ahead.
This is what a lot of people are confused about. So they have the whole thing as far as the one that's the Restrict Act, which is the Restrict Act is Bill S686. You happen to find one that's really right in my wheelhouse. That over the last 24 hours, I've been looking more and more.
That's awesome. No, this is why we bring you in, right?
Yeah.
And I spent time reading the Restrict Act, and I was like, okay, holy shit, this does have the potential. It does have the potential to expand, but we'll go there. Okay, so there's 686. What was the other bill?
The other bill was brought by Hawley, which was, forget about all the stuff as far as criminalizing this or whatever. Let's just write a law banning TikTok from being used in the United States because it's owned by the CCP.
Straight up, just a singular ban of TikTok.
Yes, a singular ban.
That's actually great. This is perfect.
He wanted unanimity from the Senate because apparently the bill gets expedited if everyone in the Senate agrees to it. Rand Paul got up and it was 99-1. Rand Paul was the only one who got up and he said, I don't understand. We all look at China as if they're onerous because they will ban things that they don't like. And now and that's the problem that we have with them. So what's our solution? When their technology is here, we're going to ban that. How does that make us any different from them? And it was basically, you and I think had this discussion, I think on my show a week ago.
These are good philosophical questions on like, which way do you go? Do you go the route of saying we're going to go down the regulation route, or do you go the route of, hey, we're trying to be the moral high ground? And can you be the moral high ground if you're playing the same game, if you're in the mud, right? Like,
Precisely.
And, isn't our duty just to let everybody know, but not tell them what to do? That's not consistent with your principles. If you're somebody who believes in deregulation, adding more regulation of anything, even your enemies, is a bad thing, right? So I think my question is going to be back to you, Joe, because you put me on the spot last week. So now it's your turn, because you always you're very deft about this. Actually, you are the master at this, at putting people on the spot Well, I'm just the question asker. So you're in the hot seat today, Joe. So what is the right thing to do? I mean, let me actually preface it by this. Is TikTok a problem? Do you believe that TikTok is an actual problem for American society?
Are you asking me as a parent, as a politician? As
okay. We'll start morally or parent. I'm sure those are probably close, right? Moral, parental lens, right? Before politician.
Okay, I'll break it down like this.
Okay, yeah.
TikTok is hot garbage.
Why?
It's terrible. What?
Why is it hot garbage? Why? I mean,
this is what, not because of anything to do with China. Not because of anything. What I'm saying is social media in general. There's nothing. You're not learning anything from TikTok. At least when you go to YouTube, you
I was going to say social media, including YouTube.
No, and you know what? Sometimes if you want to figure out how do I do this, you can find a video somewhere on YouTube which will probably walk you through it.
Sure.
TikTok is not like that. TikTok is basically, it's a form of 2023's TV. Where it's like, oh, good. Instead of having to invest my mind in 18 minutes worth of content, I can watch 30 seconds before my ADD brain enables me to watch something else and just go 30-second by 30-second clip or 60 seconds, whatever. The 60-second TikTok video feels long as anything. It feels like it takes like an hour and a half for sometimes you'll see these like minute and a half long TikTok videos, and I'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know I was getting a documentary here, because that's how long it feels in TikTok land. So that's not something that I think is healthy for kids. I think it's like basically it's self-filleting. It's like you're just sort of enjoying yourself and wasting your time. Now, does that mean that people don't have time to kill, or people are depressed and sort of feel like this is a way that they can waste their time? Yeah. But it's like, I don't think it's a productive use of. I don't think anyone can make a strong argument that's a productive use of their time, unless I guess you want to learn how to dance. You know what I'm saying? Like, and get dance moves from one of the crazy cool dancers they have there. Which I'm like, TikTok must be teaching that next generation.
Well, that's pretty much. That's pretty much their thing. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, TikTok, you immediately think dances, and I'm like, okay, right. How can I make a video of? How can I put Joe's head? AI people, Joe's head on the TikTok dance. Let's do it. But
so I think at its best, TikTok is a complete waste of time, and it's like, and it slowly turns your brain into cheese. So I think that's at its best. Now people said the same thing about TV. People said the same thing about TV for the last 80 years.
And people said the same thing about video games during my era. They said video games are going to make you ultra violent. They're going to make you kill everybody. They're going to make you do all these things, which they did not, right? It was not video games that caused any of that, right?
Correct.
That's, yes, I will say in terms of attention span, I can certainly see how, yes, TikTok is decreasing it, but there's a lot of things that I think are pushing to decrease our attention span. TikTok is just one of them.
The other bad part about TikTok, as far as it being, that's the least of the bad parts, is that it's like a complete waste of time. Like at its best, the best thing about TikTok is it's a complete waste of time.
Then we've got a potential agenda, because here's the argument.
Yes,
I'll just frame. Let me just frame
when you
the
say
argument.
Agenda, go ahead.
Okay, let me frame the argument, because this is what I've heard, and I want to know whether you agree with it or not, or whether you think this is true. So people are saying that because the CCP, it's not that the CCP is spying, although I do believe they are gathering information through TikTok. But that aside, right? The argument is because TikTok has influence and control over TikTok and the algorithm, they are pushing on American audiences. This is something Tucker Carlson said, and other people said, and I can see the point here, is that they're pushing different information. So the Chinese children are getting information on education, on family, pro-family messages, versus on the US, it's all woke garbage. It's all the woke garbage, right? And the dances, right? They're getting the dances, but they're getting the woke garbage. They're getting transition information. They're getting all the LGBTQA plus stuff in the US. So it's a strategic, like a long-term play to poison the children in the United States, particularly from a CCP that really lacks children. They're like, okay, well, what can we do? We can just really fuck up the children in the United States psychologically. It's sort of psychological warfare. What do you think about that?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's very logical. I'm saying is I think that's very logical. I think that's a reasonable take, and I think that's the reason to support Hawley here, is that basically this is that if you want to look at it from it being that the CCP is intentionally trying to make our youth stupider and more self-hating, because I think that woke ideology makes you ultimately hate yourself. And it doesn't matter whether you're white or you're a minority or male, female, trans, whatever you want to call yourself, wherever on the spectrum you are, I think that woke ideology makes you despise yourself.
Sorry, it's like the CCP is welcome to my cookie data from Pornhub and all the good sites. Yes, yes. It's like they know, they know. Duncans Fund says, what percentage does Rumble take from your version of a super chat? I know YouTube takes 30% from a YouTube super chat. I don't know. I haven't done the math personally, so I don't want to say like I've confirmed this. I thought they'd give us 90, but I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I'm not positive. I don't want to say I'm 100% on that. And only because the system is more difficult. But anyways, getting back to this though, I still have never extracted a penny out of Rumble. My Rumble bank, it sort of rises every day. But it's like almost like if you left money in your bank account, like at that rate is what it feels like it's rising. I'm like, oh wow, I made another 14 cents today. Poor Joe.
All right,
God, man. That sucks.
I'm like, so in that sense, I'm like, why am I pulling it out? Maybe the interest is gonna like compound. Like that's what I'm thinking to myself. Like, what am I taking? The truth is, I think they owe me somewhere. I mean, look, they definitely owe me well over 4 digits at this point, but I don't think it's over 5. And like, I've never taken a penny out of there. So
so it's like every time I go to my channel, I see weed ads. Well done. We know your followers well. they're seeing my trips to Thailand and like, okay, yeah, that's got to be it, right?
What do you think? What do you think that Viva gets for 100,000 views of a video, or Russell Brand gets for 100,000 views of a video on Rumble?
Well, it's actually funny you say that, because the other day I hit 100,000 views, but then it's for some reason it popped down to 88,000. Yeah, no, it was like 89,000 now. Sorry, I was like, what's going on here?
I want to see now. Now I'm curious what my Rumble views are. Where do I?
Well, you know what's funny? As soon as I created a channel, and once again, these are just like we're all figuring this shit out together. So this is all like
they tell me I don't have a channel. I don't even understand what that means. So I go to my channel. So like
you have to actually create a channel. You have to go down to where it says create a channel. Create a channel. I had to do that. Then click all the videos you want to add. So after I did that, my views went up a lot. So
this channel, I call that Good Logic.
Yeah, I just called the channel Good Logic. So you have a username Good Logic, but on a channel Good Logic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. So
yeah. So you're just like a username Good Logic.
Is this why I've gotten no money? Because they could
not no money, but I think it increases the views. That's my theory here.
You think it increases the views?
Their algo. Yeah.
How do I know how many times I've been viewed on my non-channel channel? Is there a way to check that out?
I think you can just check it in the upper right, so it should say your name, like following program, whatever you have yourself as. Good Logic.
Yeah, Good Logic. Yeah.
It'll say like the likes there, and I think there's analytics.
I see. I don't see the analytics. I see the number of likes. I see my likes I see 30.4 thousand likes.
Let's see. If you go to views, if you go to stats and analytics, you can go down like earnings, fill rate, CTR, raw views, and unique views, right? So you can see the raw views and unique views, which allegedly were high. We'll see.
Here we go.
This is real time, guys. This is tech support in real time. This is when you call the millennial in your office and you're like,
"Thank you." No.
You're like, "Hey,
did you try turning it off and on?"
That's so racist, Joe. How dare you think they're all Indian? Some of them are Pakistani.
That was my French accent. I don't know what you're talking about. So how do I know?
We have a slight riots and a little bit of customer support.
What do I see? Where do I see a total here, though?
That's something that I guess you could go monthly.
I'll leave you alone.
You could go monthly. You could go monthly or weekly.
All right, I'll try to figure this out on my own. I'll try to do my homework on my own time. Yeah. Rather than while we're in the middle of a test. We're in the middle of a test right now, and I'm doing
I see one video. I see how much that potentially. Okay, that's not bad actually.
What?
Like for 100,000 views, it's not bad. It's not bad.
You're satisfied with your numbers.
I'm satisfied with the numbers. But anyways, that aside, my interest in gold aside, and which has nothing to do with having Joe on, please ignore the fact that Good Logic is on my channel talking about money once again while wringing his hands. Please ignore that. That is completely irrelevant. Kid at Hotep says, I aspire to be like you guys. Apparently, I don't have a channel.
I don't have a channel. None of us have. Yeah.
What's up, brother? I have a channel now. So
all right. Well, congratulations to you.
I'm verified. So
and verified.
So they put their tramp stamp of approval on me.
Yeah, give me 15 seconds. It's my vape died. I need to get a fresh.
Yeah. Go ahead. As Joe does that, let's talk. Let's actually watch something that was sent to me on my locals. So this was on the Trump indictment. This is a good video. So we'll just watch this, and I'll make sure I'm not boomering the sound here. Thank you to Afix for dropping this bad boy for me to review. So let me just pop this open, pop this here. Little interlude. This is supposed to be Judge Knapp talking about this. So talking about the indictment.
Manhattan grand jury has indicted former President Donald Trump on the hush money charges. This means that he is being formally charged with at least one felony under New York state law. My guess is that it is the one we have discussed before, which is use of corporate funds to pay a campaign debt. It's a little complicated because that's a federal felony, and he's being charged in state court. The district attorney has a legal theory that by committing this federal felony, he also committed a state crime, and the state courts are competent to address and examine both. So once the indictment is revealed and I have a chance to read it, obviously, I'll give you more details. This means that he will eventually be arrested because he's not a flight risk. He will obviously be allowed to surrender himself, but he'll have to surrender. He'll be booked. He'll be fingerprinted. The mugshot will be seen around the world. He'll appear before a judge. He'll be asked if he is Donald Trump and if he does understand the charges against him and how he pleads. All of this will play out in the next several days. Probably, it's now Thursday, probably earlier next week.
Yep, that was very okay. Yeah, good video, good short video.
Yeah.
Now I'm not. I'd have to confirm the felony part, right? That's the one that I'm not sure of, but I mean, it could very well be true, right? I think that would just like our analysis sticks there, right? In terms of the felony analysis, I don't think anything changes there except for the PR angle, right? There's a harsher PR angle. Okay, Trump's 2024 bid looks a little better. But thank you, Afix, for that video. Appreciate
I wonder why they wouldn't have said indicted for a felony rather than just leaving it as blank indicted, assuming that. I mean, he's a judge, that guy, right? He's a New York judge,
right? Yeah. Apparently, yes.
So he presumably knows what he's talking about.
Is he still active? I don't know whether he's active now or not. Anyways, at some point he was.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Let's turn back to what we were talking about. The important stuff, TikTok, the important stuff. So, okay, you're a politician, right? So we've.
You were asking me my opinion on this whole thing.
Now you're a politician. Yeah. Which way do you go with this? Joe Neerman, you are in office and you are applying your morals to law, right? Which way do you go with this? You're balancing your people's needs against your own morality, right? But also they elected you, so.
So
in a fair election, you were not scammed in.
The Chinese are trying to influence my audience into turning their brains to mush. That's basically what the concern is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm banning TikTok. This is
you specifically ban TikTok,
right?
You don't create an overarching CIA, FBI, alphabet agency path in order to vaguely prohibit transactions.
Right. No, I mean the way as long as there's, I don't want there to be punishment for an individual who breaks it. If it's something that's on a corporate level, that corporations can't help distribute TikTok, like that's where it's limited. That's something that I could potentially sign off on. In other words, here's a similar example. Here's a similar question. Let's assume that Chinese were trying to buy up swaths of property under different different aliases or whatever, shell companies and things of that nature.
In a manner in which they're not allowed, they would not be allowed.
They can buy up like the all 4 states that make up the 4 corners. You know what I'm saying? Like all the farm area in that area.
Are other countries allowed to do the same thing, or are we? For example, look, I'll put it this way. I live abroad, right? Different countries have wildly different perspectives on foreign ownership of property. That's a huge issue. Most countries outright prohibit it, just don't allow it, right? They don't allow, at minimum, non-permanent residents. Some of them will allow, if you're a permanent resident, you have a permanent resident status, they'll allow you to purchase, right? But most just, it's citizens only, right? Purchasing, or citizens or native corporations, and they're going to look at those to be led by citizens. But if you're adopting a national rule that we don't discriminate in America, we say foreign corporations can buy whatever property they want. Is it fair? Is it fair? Do we single out China and say?
Well, I think that policy is kind of short-sighted. I think that,
yes,
especially in the world we're living in now, and we see that there's a direction that people are looking to establish. A phrase. I don't know if I've ever used the phrase before, but New World Order, because it sounds so. Growing up, that always sounded so
NWO.
Kooky.
Yeah,
It sounded so kooky to me that I would assume that like anyone who uses NWO is going to next talk about the alien sightings that they had, last week. So it's like
no. See, you and I grew up in much different backgrounds. See, when I think of NWO. This is what I thought of NWO. This is my growing up. See, I'm a white trash Southern boy. I thought of this as NWO. This is my.
Is that NWO Hulk Hogan?
Movie. Yes, that's fucking Hulk Hogan. This is how I know. This is how I know you didn't grow up with the fish sticks and the.
No, I didn't.
And the cardboard pizza. I mean, this was my NWO growing up. So, anyways, wrestling, Joe.
Yeah. Well, no. So I can get on board with it. At the same time, I kind of like the fact that it's going a little slower. I like the fact that Rand Paul is making it not unanimous. I like that. I want it. I don't want this. I want there to be thought and reflection about what we're doing and how it is that we'll distinguish this from randomly picking off companies we don't like. I also do think that there are reasons to be suspicious of the government, that they have control over social media, whether it's Facebook or Google or Twitter, that they basically feel that they have their hands in that pie. All the data that's being amassed there, they have hotlines to them that we see from the Twitter files. They have control there. They have people, anyone who's like, each of them have CEOs in dozens of former military are working in high-level jobs in the 6 major social media things, but not TikTok. And I feel as if, and I question whether the motivation here is, as you referenced, I think in the beginning, whether this is about data collection, and the government wants to have its oversight over data collection, and feels like left out of that piece of a pie, and that piece of pie has grown too big for its concern.
Yeah. And the electronic means they're very concerned about. I mean, they're very concerned about controlling the electronic levers, because that's the last lever of control they don't fully have yet. They're trying their damnedest, but they don't have control over that lever. They've got pretty much everything else. If you think about the banking system or, military, anything else, they've got all the other levers, right?
So I would be looking to have some sort of studies to establish like that this is really the impact it's having. We keep hearing the number 150 million users. I think that's probably globally. I cannot imagine that's
globally.
But they keep saying, there's 150 million. We have to do this because there's 150 million TikTok users, and I'm like, I have a feeling like 75 million are probably at least are in China. So
that there could be dump accounts. So for example, like a user doesn't mean like an active user, and like you could have, for example, multiple accounts under your name. For example, if you're a content creator, oftentimes you have one for your content and then one for viewing, right? Because you want to kind of separate those. So a lot of those accounts, you start an account, you forget the password, you create a new one, right? Maybe there's some that are just troll accounts or bot accounts or whatever else. You get banned, you create a new account. So those numbers may be a little squishy.
By the time
there's a lot of people. I wouldn't believe. I mean, honestly, Joe, to be completely honest, I would believe 100 million. If you told me there's 100 million in the United States, I'd say that's plausible.
I wouldn't be shocked if there was 3 million who use it more than once a week
actively. Now that's different, right? That's different, right? And they're talking active users, 3 million. Okay, yeah. But in terms of people that have created an account once,
right?
At least Yeah, I could see 100 million.
Okay, all right. Perhaps that's 1 in 3 Americans. That's a lot of Americans. That's one in 3. That's a lot of Americans. Consider that most people over 15 have never been on TikTok. So now we're dealing from a demographic which is far less than 300 million. You're talking about like 250 million.
Yeah,
you're talking 100 million of those.
You've technically got. I mean, the number that Facebook reports right now, I just had to double check, was 335 million. So
really,
335 million. That's what Facebook reports. So I mean, now you can say, okay, are those active? I know I deleted my account, so I know that's not real for me. But that's the amount of accounts that are out there. And also, once again, are these double accounts, these business accounts, what other types of accounts are out there on Facebook? But that's the number that allegedly they are.
Is this
sorry, I'm sorry. I quoted that wrong. 239 million. I'm sorry.
Is this sort of like a habeas corpus type of thing where they're going after one individual? But in this case, it's a corporation.
Well, and that's the thing.
Making a law against one individual.
And that's the thing. And it's not something we're not supposed to do. That's why I think this is a moral question for you. And that's why I like to ask you these questions, because typically, look, Trump's defense here, is, hey, we're singling him out, right? There's so many other people. And by the way, thank you, Leprechaun Gold for 50. Appreciate you. Really nice. There's so many other people that have likely committed this local, state level. Think about so many people have committed that or worse than what Trump has done here, right? Yeah. Even if he's guilty, if he's guilty, this is a drop in the fucking bucket compared to what people are getting away with left and right. Democrats and conservatives too. I don't give them any flack. They've done both sides of the Mitch McConnells and the AOCs. All of them are in these sorts of scenarios. But that being said,
but how is this not habeas corpus against TikTok? How is it not that we're basically
if they have a special
their existence?
So here's the argument. I'm going to devil's advocate this because I'm not sure that I agree with
philosophically.
By the way, let me be very clear. I mean, I think from my principle standpoint, I am not for regulation of anything. So this is something.
I thought last week you said you would be down for banning TikTok. I think that's what you told me last week, and I was a little surprised. I said you're not really a libertarian. I said
you'd have to come up with no. But once again, that's my default standard. If you're able to come up with some special reason that above and beyond other platforms, right? So you're saying we're not banning OnlyFans, we're not banning Pornhub, we're not banning Roosters Incorporated, right? Like whatever else, like Furry and Friends. We're not banning any of that, right?
What are you on? What does your search history show?
Don't worry about it. I'm in Korea. I use a VPN, and that would actually get me 20 years under the Restrict Act.
We're not banning midgets on poles.
No, we're not bitching midget strippers. Thank you, especially the trans ones. I really appreciate that. So does
you left out the end of that statement. Thank God.
So look, it's a situation where you have to show that one thing is so bad that it merits to be blocked above other things, right? It rises to that level of dangerousness. I mean, how is that more poisonous than an Instagram reel or anything else? Which, by the way, we know the alphabet agencies are in trying to fuck with our brains.
Just to draw an analogy here, let's imagine they said this one TikToker, we don't like him, we're banning him from being able to go out there and do his thing here. How could that possibly be legal? That sounds so crazy.
No, that cannot be legal, like banning a specific TikToker. But what I'm saying is banning TikTok as a platform.
No, right? I understand the distinction, but now you're picking TikTok out of the different social media groups and saying this social media is going to die.
You'd have to convince me, like I said, that there's something about that there's a level of Chinese military control, that they're using this as a way to steal data that's unprecedented, that no other app is.
But you're not talking about that. You're talking about the influencer not stealing data. They can buy data from Facebook. They can buy data from Twitter. They all amass tons of data and sell it to private entities all the time.
If we're talking about influencers, and let's be clear, influencers will just go to another platform. Like influencers are not. Listen, we're the best case scenario for this. I mean, our highfalutin morals and loyalty. We're out here on Rumble, on Locals. I got my stuff on Odyssey. You're about to stream to Facebook. I mean, these hoes are not loyal. If you haven't noticed that, influencers will just go wherever the money is, whatever the views are, right? Influencers are gonna migrate.
It doesn't
right?
always work that well, though. It doesn't. It really
doesn't work that well, but we are gonna move, right? So like we will, and some won't make it, right? So you'll go to another platform. It'll be different. It'll have a different audience. Maybe it doesn't pay as well, so you're less incentivized. So you're producing less content, and that creates a cycle where nobody watches you. So yeah, we'll go. It may not work, but we'll try to go. So those TikTokers would go somewhere else, right? They would go, whether it's like Instagram Reels Plus or whatever other new thing, twerk talk, right? Somebody invents twerk talk, and it fully commits to being twerking 24/7, and that's all you do is twerk.
I think that was an inspiring name right there. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Every once in a while you come with someone who's going to say, damn.
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
I can't believe you came up with something.
Don't fucking say it.
I can't even believe it. That was so
fucking say it. You almost got it out. I know what you're going to say. That's the most.
That's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard you say.
I can't take that shit. Jesus Christ. Oh, God damn it, Joe.
It was patronizing way.
God damn it, Joe. Leslie Kohler says, Andrew, Joe, my favorite boys. Appreciate you, Leslie. Appreciate you. Love y'all. If you like us, smash a like button. It helps us know that you still got it. That the illogical mindset still got it. That our boys have still got this. No, but look, I appreciate the thought on this, because look, this is something that I think people on the right, I think, are guilty of, because what happens is the left, we cry and we whine about censorship and about cancellation and deplatforming, but then we'll find something we don't like, and there's certain people on the right and certain Republicans that they go back and they do the exact same thing. And the second you do that, I do think, unless you come up with a damn good reason, you're guilty of doing the exact same thing the other side.
Yeah, it's a real problem. And even if you come up with some sort of justification, everyone looks at it like, yeah, that's your justification. But yeah, the next time you'll come up with another justification, which means your principles don't mean anything.
Right.
So, look, there are all sorts of justifications for changing rules around during COVID, also because everyone thought they were going to die. Or at least the Supreme Court thought everyone was. Supreme Court thought everyone was going to die. None of us thought.
Well, I know, but at the root of that is the base problem: is that can people self-regulate? And I happen to believe that people can self-regulate. And by the way, I think someone said in the chat that parents should have the duty to regulate their children.
Yeah. Would you punish parents for failing to regulate their children?
Yes, it's, if you have duty, you have responsibility. It goes both ways. That's what, schools are supposed to have that duty, by the way. They don't. They fail that.
So are you happy with Michigan's punishment to the Crumbly parents?
Okay, that is fundamentally different, right?
Why?
Because we currently punish parents for child neglect, right? So if you neglect your child, right, and your child's health or safety suffers, you are guilty of a crime. That's correct in all 50 states, right? So that is something we accept. We do accept punishing parents for their failure to act. We do not have vicarious liability for parents. That's what the Crumblies are. The Crumblies, I know that it can be confused and muddled there, but the Crumblies is the guilt of the son is implied on the parents. It's not because they neglected him. That's not what they're charged with. They're charged with vicarious liability for his actions.
So you would say he should have been taken away from them, but not that they should be criminally liable.
Not for that.
Okay.
Right.
No, I'm just trying to figure out where the line is. And I think that's a line I can understand. I can get behind that. If they neglected him, if they beat him, if they left a loaded gun out in front of him and he shot himself, then they should be certainly liable for that. Right. Because that was their duty. And he's underage. Right. So he's underage, loaded gun, shoots himself. Right. They fail to exercise basic gun safety, which any gun owner out there, would know. You exercise gun safety, you keep your guns, safely contained, locked away. That's ultra important. That's on him. I mean, that'll be on the parents, right? If he shot himself, injured himself, stabs himself, and it's due to their negligence, drowns himself. Looking at you, Casey Anthony with Kaylee. That's something where the parents should be liable. But I do not think we should hold the kids liable for the parents for the sins of the kids. And by the way, that's always going to be selectively enforced. Right, of course. I agree with you that I don't like the idea. I like the fact that I felt like the Michigan the Michigan Appellate Court at least gave, as I mentioned to you after watching that hearing, that they at least were giving the state a hard time about what they were doing here. And that's definitely going to be appealed to the Michigan Superior Court or Supreme Court, whatever they call it there, which is the highest court in the land right now. In case you're unaware, the Crumley parents were found that the appellate court ruled in favor of the state.
Give us the whole. Go back up a second. So they appealed just the charges or the ability to be charged, right? So they have not gone to trial. There's nothing that's been proven against them as of yet. They're just appealing their ability to be charged.
Correct.
So the lower court ruled what?
The lower court initially ruled that the charge is fine. The initial court, the trial court said these charges can proceed. Yes. They appealed. The appellate court listened to arguments in both sides, gave both sides a hard time, gave the defendants who were raising the appeal a hard time, and also gave the state a hard time, saying this has never happened before. Isn't this really just some way of trying to punish parents who have guns and different parents raise different ways. Depressed.
So they
kids
asked the real questions. They asked
some of the real questions, like for some kids, having access to having gun training is a healthy outlet for them. That is better for them than keeping them away from it. So they were asking really good questions about this entire scenario and asking. Is there any state in this country which has ever proceeded with charges on this, knowing full well the answer was no? And why should we be the first and whatever? And how do we not fall down a slippery slope? These are all fair questions that the appellate court asked. And after asking these questions and getting answers from the state on that, and asking questions of the parents, which seemed very in favor of the charges, and getting answers from them, they basically came out and said, we're going to allow these charges to proceed. And in cases of gross negligence by the parents, that we're going to basically potentially hold them liable in the future. And then the line they tried to draw was gross negligence, which is such a subjective word. When does negligence become gross?
That's way too subjective. That's my issue with that. I get how they would do that cognitively, but it's a slippery slope. And with prosecutors, I trust them zero. Yeah, I think this is going to be selective prosecution. That's the practical. That's my realpolitik version. It's going to be used against people with guns. It's going to solely be applied in the case of guns. The case precedent will be guns. This is just, once again, there's all these attacks, right? These attacks against parents, attacks against red flag laws, attacking your second rights. They cannot defeat the right directly. They're going to indirectly attack the law. That's always been the game.
Procedurally, the stage we're at is, I haven't seen anything on this, but I am positive that the defendants are going to appeal yet again to the Michigan Supreme Court, which I believe is the label they have for the highest court in the state of Michigan, and have them weigh in as to whether these charges can proceed. And I assume, I don't know if they're required to take it, but I'd be surprised if they ignore this case and don't give it a chance so that they can weigh in and basically set the tone for the entire state. If they fail to do that, if the defendants fail to follow this appeal, I'll be incredibly disappointed, and I'll be shocked by that. I mean, there's no justification for not following that.
I would be
astonished.
I don't know Michigan politics, but to me, it seems like they've pretty much surrendered to the left.
Yeah.
That's
really
my external view. It's not as bad, but man, last time I was in Detroit, when I was out there, it was just depressing.
They're the woke capital of the Midwest. They are that state has. They passed Proposition, I think 2 or something like that, where it's like they were so in favor of like abortion that they were like, the laws that they passed there were basically designed to make it that you don't have that anyone can come in and vote on anything. It was just like it was.
Let me get you riled up here, because this is a comment that actually came up on, of course, Degenerate Rumble, but and that is, what would you think about charging parents who transition their kids? How about this? I'll come up with a scenario.
How old?
How about the kids are very young, right? They're prepubescent, so let's say they're 10, 11, 12, right? And they say, okay, we want to get them started on the juice before they go to puberty, so we're gonna defer their puberty or deflect their puberty, whatever their science is. By the way, this is not science. This is Frankenstein's monster. But in that case, would you say If the child, should they be charged, number one, for doing it? Number two, if the child ultimately, as an adult, says, I didn't really want that, and this was something
no. You don't need to get to that.
Don't even need to get there.
No. If they approve surgery for a child to have his hand removed, which was a perfectly healthy hand, would you say that's neglect? Would you say that's abuse?
Absolutely. If they said they're going to chop off their leg or their arm and say, "Oh yeah, that's we're just going to do that to a child."
Of course you would.
And the doctors, but I do agree. I charge the doctors too for performing that surgery.
Sure, you're Frankenstein. You're Dr. Frankenstein here. We need to stop. I'll tell you this. After the whole Nashville shooting, my take on this has changed.
I've ramped up too, because just the way it was. I think that it is scary, the reaction you get when it is another situation and versus when it is this. There was zero, and I mean zero, outcry support for the Christian community, zero after this from any big corporation, right? Anyone out there. They don't give a shit, right? Because it was the wrong way, because it wasn't the other way in terms of the optics.
Did you see my rant that I dropped when I was on Nick's channel on Monday?
Yeah, that was epic. That's why I kind of ask you about this, because I know you get a little worked up on it. And listen, it's a safe space here, Joe. No one's gonna you're free to go off, and it's okay. Like, no one's gonna hurt you. It's a safe environment.
We need to. I mean, what Nashville should have taught us. Nashville should have taught us that we have to stop worrying about offending people or hurting their feels, and stop coddling, and that this entire problem has been brought in our society because of coddling. The increased number of shootings that we have is not because of guns. It's because these kids are really self-hating, miserable human beings, and that self-hating element and their misery comes because of the culture that we have created for them to grow up in. That is a culture which does not push them to achieve. It does not push them to develop themselves. Quite the contrary. It yells at them for the way they were born. It is the most anti-14th Amendment thing you can possibly imagine, where you're basically punishing a child and making him feel like he's worth less than someone else because he has a penis, or he's worth less than the boy next to him because he has less melanin. We have created a situation here where you are trained to think that you are inferior. This is terrible for both the person you're telling is inferior as it is for the person you're telling is superior, because you're telling the person that they're superior, and that doesn't motivate them to work harder to make themselves superior. So it's harming both white and black children. This CRT nonsense, this transition and gender nonsense, is designed to basically confuse kids at an age when they are the most ripe to be confused about their sexuality, when they're going through puberty, which is when every child is trying to figure out who they are. And there we go, and we're going to sit there trying to say, whoa, even though you're going through these different changes where you went from a stage that you had absolutely zero interest or perception or cognitive understanding of as to what coitus is, or now we want to start introducing to you, maybe you shouldn't be engaging in coitus with your natural endowments, but you should try changing those endowments, or start using them in ways that do not conform towards reproductive processes, but just purely engaging in some sort of twisted sexual direction that has absolutely no potential procreational benefits. And then we say, I can't believe that they're so upset. Why are they growing up? Why are they all depressed? I don't understand this.
Why are they committing suicide
Why are they so miserable? Why are they so self-hating? Why are they making themselves intentionally fat or intentionally ugly? And they don't recognize the fact that what you're sitting here telling everyone stunning and brave, and the reality is, while you and I have the maturity to look at that and laugh at how they're trying to gaslight the public and say that something is actually stunning or actually brave when it is gross and disgusting and hideous, and anyone with eyes can see that. But when you start telling that to kids who are 12, 13, 14, 15, who are desperately trying to find acceptance in their social peers, desperately trying to get recognition, or at the very least not feel like they're a joke or a loser next to one, and you spent the last 15 years of their lives telling them that you're a loser because you're white, and then we wonder, I wonder why it is that so many of them all of a sudden think that they're born in the wrong body. There are two genders. You are born the gender you are, and if you slap on some sort of new piece of material, whether or you carve into a boy or slap something onto a girl or slap something onto a boy, whatever it is that you're doing, all you're basically doing is giving them new trimmings. But and no matter what type of leanings they might have, like, oh, I don't know if I'm as masculine as everyone else, I get in touch with my feminine side, therefore all of a sudden everything else about me is completely wrong. And if they go, and when are we attacking them on this? When are we dropping this on them? When they're at most ripe to be completely confused about everything. Then they get a little bit older, and we sit there and we say, like, I don't understand, why are they so miserable? Why are they so miserable? You know what we don't have enough of?
No idea.
We need more mental health professionals. You didn't know that, Andrew? Oh, we need a lot more mental health professionals.
Oh, a lot.
Of course. No, because we don't have it. It's impossible to find any way to figure out how to fix everything under the sun on YouTube.
Oh, and actually, Joe, hold on. We're out of prescription. We're out of prescription pills. We're out of prescription pills as well. I don't know if you've heard that, by the way, but we're actually in a shortage of right now Adderall and antidepressants. We're the number one. We're number one in antidepressants in the world by a wide margin, not even close.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys. We did it. America's number one. Yeah, we're back, baby. We're doing it. We're doing it. Yeah, America. Fuck yeah.
But if you're making kids miserable and then they end up acting out and hurting themselves, which they do an astonishing 40+% of the time, or at least try to hurt themselves, sometimes fortunately they're unsuccessful, because I don't want to see any of these messed up kids, no matter what way they're messed up, hurting themselves. I definitely don't want to see them hurting other people. But when that happens, it's like, oh, you know what the problem is? Too many guns. It's too many guns. It's not that we made them miserable. It's not that we gave them no sense of self-worth. It's not, because the only way you feel self-worth is if you actually face a challenge, square on, and overcome that challenge. If someone gifts you something, you start hating the person who gifts you and resenting them. Anything that you're given as a gift, you never, ever can possibly appreciate. The only way you feel genuine happiness, the reason why we promise life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not happiness, is because the only way you can find happiness is if you bother to engage in its pursuit. So we free up that you have the ability to pursue that happiness, and this government's not going to stand in your way in pursuing that happiness. Well, now we have a government where in school, they're basically trying to discourage you from finding that happiness. Don't engage in any critical thinking. Just repeat whatever we say. In fact, if you disagree with us, we're going to make you feel like you're an idiot and a loser, which is the exact opposite of what schooling is supposed to be about. We have a messed up education system, which is far closer to an indoctrination center and trying to brainwash kids into thinking that whatever the parents told them is flat out wrong, especially if they ever had the audacity to mention God at home. And then we sit there, we say, oh, well, why are they? I can't. It's like I can't believe that we're allowing so many people to have access to guns, when especially crazy people. You made them crazy. You made them looking to pull a trigger, and if they don't find the trigger, they're still going to be miserable. So we need to stop coddling. We need to stop telling these kids that you can grow up and think and pretend you're playing pretend, and that's some sort of reality, and that everyone around you is obligated to treat that like it's reality. And if they don't cater to that, that makes them evil. It makes them racist or fascist or whatever, or the next Donald Trump or Hitler or Nazis or whatever you want to call them, because they're not catering to whatever fantasy world that you're living in here. We need to start saying, look, here's the reality. You know who's the conspiracy theorist? It's the left. They have this whole conspiracy theory. They have this whole theory that they can help a kid change their gender. I didn't decide whether you're male or female. That was something that nature decided or God decided, depending on where you're coming from. I don't care where you fall on that side of the aisle. But I'm going to tell you this. When you came out of the womb, look, a tiny percentage of people are born intersex, but for the overwhelming majority of humanity, you came out with a certain sex that was assigned to you, because everyone has known for the last 50 million years what gender you were the moment you came out of your mama's womb. So let's stop pretending that can change, because it will never change. And we need to start calling out this nonsense for what it is. If someone's older and they have some sort of issues and they want to start transitioning and doing their things when they get older, that's fine. This shouldn't be happening It shouldn't be happening to 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 13, 12. Oh my God. Some mothers are trying to convince 7-year-olds, like, oh, my kid told me he's gay. He has no idea what sex is, but he told me he's gay, so he must be gay. Let's treat him as gay for the rest of his life. That is criminally abusive. That is horrific. because you're basically saying, I'm going to try and I'm going to direct you into something that makes you far less likely to have a long-term happiness than you should have. The parents are supposed to be the guardians who are looking out for their growth and development. And any parent who's saying, oh yeah, I'm going to sign off my kid transitioning, I'm telling you right now, that parent should be locked away, kept away, especially from any children, because they're a terrible, terrible, terrible influence on our society. So that's my short answer to your question.
That was a really short answer, Joe, but that was a great answer, guys. Smash the like button for Joe Neighbor and his rants. Do you like this shit? This is what I'm bringing in for. I'm like, I know Joe's going to get fired up on this one. I just want to matter how fired up is he going to get.
We need to stop coddling this. It's really
wrong.
No,
we do, because
we need to start saying,
Joe,
this whole transition is wrong.
You had to. The point is, we've got you're exactly right. And let me summarize the TLDR version, the true TLDR version. This is the millennial version, the boomer version. We have gone too soft on the T's, and I think our lust for being gentle on the topic, being careful on the topic, has allowed us to allow certain behavior to get out of control. They keep touching the third rail. They keep trying to start something. They keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. There's a point at which you have to say, this is enough. And by the way, it doesn't mean all of this group of people. There is a certain group, there's a certain people pushing it. In fact, the people pushing it often aren't in that group themselves, right? Mm-hmm. They're people that are pushing this that aren't actually in this, right? So that's another thing too. It's 100%. The millennials, by the 100%. Way, so the millennial parents, for example, and I'll put this on my generation, that push their kids into it, right? They didn't do it. They didn't transition, right? They didn't do it, but they're pushing their kid into it out of this demented Munchausen by proxy, right? They want to live through their kid. They want to see their kid do this thing so they can get the points and say, I'm a parent of this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. They want to virtue signal their greatness.
Yes. We need to go after that sickness and call it out for what it is. That is a mental issue on the part of the parents that want to push their kids into this, that want to force their kids into this. And by the way, I say that knowing people. I have a distant relative that is exactly that type of person. It is vile behavior, and you see it, right? You see it. They have issues in their life. They have mental issues in their life. Yep. They have a kid. The kid, is an infant and picks up something pink, and all of a sudden, because that kid picks up something pink, it's a boy, biological boy, picks up something pink. Oh, they're trans. Clearly, they're trans now. So we got to buy them all female stuff, because he likes that better. Right, that's his preference, because he picked up that unicorn toy once when he was an infant and he wasn't able to cognize these things. So we're going to make his decisions for him for the rest of his life. John Gordon, a little too late, said, "Breathe, Joe, breathe, breathe." And then Nick Cruiser with a 20. Appreciate you, Nick. You're a fucking G. No, I mean, honestly, no, you're the guy who I know is going to be honest about it. And frankly, look, I know people get in trouble over this. People have been getting in trouble over Nashville. I know a lot of folks have had their videos taken down, age restricted, censored over this. But there's a point at which you got to say, look, enough is enough with coddling people on this issue. Enough is enough with pretending things are okay when they're not. Enough is enough with enabling parents.
And I'm not only not encouraging, I want to condemn as wrong anyone who physically tries to encounter someone and punish someone in some sort of way because of their engaging this in a tea lifestyle. I think that is terribly evil and terribly wrong. What I'm talking about is we need to be far more direct about our messaging. Our messaging has to be that, no, this is a fantasy. It's not reality, and nothing here is changing. All you're doing is basically coddling someone to the point that you're making them more miserable. And unfortunately, their misery too often spills out onto others.
Yes. So I will say, Joe, this is excellent. This is actually from my good friend and mod, Afix here, whose birthday it is. So I'm going to do a birthday shout for my mod here, who's been my mod on Discord for a while. He actually caught me in the act. This is the screen cap of me the moment I realized I set Joe into a rant. This is glorious. This is like the moment when you realize like you successfully did the thing. So to another excellent Joe rant, and also Afix, Mike, happy birthday. You're an amazing mod. Cheers, brother.
that moment, that smirking. I like
the moment, right?
I gotta tell you, you also could have. I could have launched off on this whole Restrict Act because you asked me.
I mean, like, what else? I mean, because we got a little bit of time, so like, let's go back up. Let's circle back on the straight, because the Restrict Act to me is intentionally an attempt to expand the intelligence state. Yeah,
go on.
No, I mean, to me, that just looks like it's something that was another, once again, another attempt at a power grab. And if you look back at what we gave up for the Patriot Act, I mean, if we could take that back, I was not old enough to vote when that was passed, right? Mm-hmm. But that was probably the biggest restriction on our civil liberties in the last 80 years, in terms of restriction. Mm-hmm. Because we've been letting them out, right? We've been opening certain things up, right? Oh yeah, you can do whatever you want in your sexual life, right? We're talking about that. Right. That's all opened up. But restricting our freedom from government surveillance, to be targeted by the government, that really was dried up by the Patriot Act. And I view the Restrict Act as the same way. But I want to get your take on it. What was you read it, you looked at it, right? So what's your thoughts on it generally?
I've seen. I haven't actually broken it down line by line, which I probably should do that.
It's long. It's very long.
Yeah, but the Restrict Act is basically designed that the defenders of the Restrict Act claim that this is not about going after people like you and me. This is going after people who are using the internet to try and assist foreign governments. That's the defense. This is not coming after you. This is people who are specifically trying to help Russia, trying to help China. That's the defense of saying it's not infringement of your civil liberty. Stop, sit down, relax. You're all just freaking out for nothing. Here's how Joe, you know that's a lie. Here's how you know that's a lie.
I was gonna say, Joe, did they not accuse all of us of backing up Russia when we said anything negative about the Ukraine war?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. The Rosenbergs were convicted for helping a foreign government, which wasn't even really an enemy of the state. It was they were convicted and given a death penalty back in the 1950s for helping an enemy state. You think we don't have laws on the books which restrict you from subverting American interests in favor of a foreign government? Of course we do. You don't need a new act for that.
Did I just catch this here? Are you defending the Rosenbergs giving away our nuclear secrets? Are you defending them?
That was an interesting
Joe.
That was an anti-Semitic thing. That was
okay. It was. I didn't look. I went back in the. Okay.
That was. I haven't really looked at that case
on the Rosenbergs.
I never did a deep dive on the Rosenbergs. I really should.
Let's do it, Joe. I think we're uniquely situated to do a deep dive on the Rosenbergs.
We are, but
uniquely situated.
But I don't want to.
My Hitler-esque haircut and your orthodoxy together, we could put this together, right?
I was gonna say, I should do the deep dive on the Rosenbergs. You should do a deep dive on Korematsu.
And in Operation Paperclip, where they got my dad over here. Obviously.
But what I'm
by the way, Leslie, we will not stop. I will not stop for Joe and I do not stop for any less than $100. Listen, we are high class prostitutes. I find that's
I'm gonna tell you that I don't
agree with you. By the way,
the idea that we need. The idea that we need to have this in order to stop someone from subverting American interests in favor of foreign governments is laughable, because we stopped that over a century ago. Those laws have been on the books for a very, 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 very long time. You don't need to have new laws on the books for that. The only reason they have this on the books is precisely what you just mentioned. So this way they can go to court and say, hey, we need a warrant to tap on Legal Mindset's phone, because we have concerns based on certain tweets that he sent out, or he's supporting here the Biden administration. He's supporting the theory that the Biden laptop is which everyone knows is Russian disinformation, which that obviously, I'm saying is at the time that they were still pretending it's Russian disinformation, right? So imagine there's always a November surprise, right? There's a story that breaks down, right? October surprise, right? So imagine we're in 2024. Okay, and now
which is going to come quicker than you know it. We're going to be there quicker than you know it. We're going to be in this shit. It's going to feel like, especially once we really heat up with the campaigning, it's gonna blaze past. I guarantee you.
let's assume we're in October 2024. Biden is running again. He decides to run for re-election. He's running again. And October 2024, a story breaks that basically confirms that Biden and there's some new laptop found, which basically confirms that Biden took money from Xi directly and promised that he was going to and promised that he was going to send money to Ukraine, whatever it is, that he took a bribe from Zelensky. Let's assume something that happens. Some laptop that belongs to Joe Biden himself shows that he has a deal cut out with Zelensky that he's going to get 10% of everything that gets sent to Ukraine. Okay, now everyone's going to be screaming Russian disinformation. And you or I will be covering that story. And what will happen is under the newly passed Restrict Act, because they're saying it's Russian disinformation, which is what they always defend themselves, they will be able to say, hey, Your Honor, we need to get a warrant for a wiretap on Legal Mindset's phone because he's saying that this new laptop which everyone knows is Russian disinformation, is real, and maybe he's an agent for the government, for the Russian government, and maybe he's doing this because he's trying to subvert American interests, and that we have to worry that he and Joe and anyone who's covering this story is working for Xi or working for Putin or working for whatever. It gives a license that anytime you or I discuss something that the government does not like, that they can basically say, that based on the Restrict Act, now we have a basis that we should go tap their phones and start monitoring them and putting them under surveillance to make sure that they're not working in cahoots with some foreign government. That's in a best case scenario what this law does. In a worst case scenario, you actually can get charged. You can actually
and there's like no review. I mean, once again, this is something that there's no congressional oversight. There's no review of this. This is just you're shoved in a box somewhere. Based on this authority, which we've now given to administration to pretty much once again go down their political agenda and persecute their political enemies, right? And you know exactly
that you're not on the payroll of Putin. Yeah. That's like that. That's you. It's become the onus can come on you. That go prove that it's
like civil asset forfeiture, right? It's like you got to prove that you didn't commit the crime before you're on trial for the crime.
But you probably could show there's a lack of evidence showing that. But certainly if you're in the wrong jurisdiction,
why is the burden on you? No,
I'm not saying the burden would shift to you. The burden probably would not shift to you. But I'm saying is if you're in the wrong jurisdiction, we know that you're fighting an uphill battle where you basically have to prove if you're in Washington D.C. district, you basically have to prove your innocence beyond reasonable doubt if you want to get off if you're sitting from the right. So
you shouldn't have to fight any of this, because here's the thing, Joe, you know this as well as I do. Just the commencement, just having to deal with that in your life, right? The time and effort, fuck the burdens of proof and everything else, even if they're all in your favor, even all the burdens are in your favor, everything's the fucking time and money for these shyster lawyers to have to pay them to defend you, to go to court, even if you do it fucking pro se, it doesn't matter. Even if it was an easy case, that is time out of your life you never get back. It is stress on you. It is an insane burden on your life when you have enough things to be doing that not dealing with this. I think the freedom from being charged is something that we should police a lot more. Just not even bring the you're
100% right.
Doesn't even rise to the court the charging standard.
Say it louder, because I don't think if you haven't been down that road.
Not rise to the charging level. You should never be charged. If you've ever been hit with a frivolous lawsuit, it's not fun. It doesn't matter that you can own it, that you can blow it out of the water or whatever else. It's not fun. It's a pain in the ass. It's a drain on your life, right?
And it's
no
also
matter what.
It's an ongoing stress that you deal with for years. It's like a real stress that, like, oh my God, something really bad that's unfair can really become a reality.
It's a trauma. There's people, and I actually had somebody on the very beginning of my channel, back before I came on with you and made it big. Remember, I made it big because of Joe. My Papa Joe, I always have thankful for Papa Joe. People can shit talk Joe, never me, because I know who's my rabbi.
That was your
my rabbi.
That was your connection.
So, he's a mensch. I mean, we were talking about. So, in the beginning, I had this guy on. He said, he works with people and he himself has suffered essentially PTSD, what's equivalent of traumatic stress from having to go to court, from being forced to court through frivolous lawsuits. And I can see that, right? I can see that. Like, you're going about your life and all of a sudden you're just hit with a traumatic lawsuit. You're hit with something out of nowhere and you're just absolutely shell-shocked. That process is unreal. When you're sitting there in the courtroom and you're the defendant, that's an unreal situation for you.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, it really
is. You know, we can sit here and we can Monday morning quarterback how people scratch their nose or, you know, where they look with their eyes, but you're not in that courtroom feeling that.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not in that hot seat.
You can't imagine what the trauma was like for Kyle, not just that night, but like just the idea that he might spend the rest of his life in prison and having that over his head for years, that, you know, for a year and a half. Like, my God, like what that ages you, where you like you're not the same person when you come out of that experience. You're just not. So it's an unfair way of tormenting someone, and to give more power to the government to do something like this, we should be screaming. Every member of the Senate, I can't believe Lindsey freaking Graham signing off on this stupid Restrict Act. This is everyone. If you look at the list of people who signed off on it, they're all they're classic neocons. And I'm talking about neocons,
yes,
both Republican and Democrat, because you can be a Democrat and be a neocon.
The Uniparty.
It's all the Uniparty. It's all the people who are looking for that new world order. We're all under the federal government has massive levels of control over its own populace, and that's what this is. This is massive government oversight and the ability for overreach, which is just, it's chilling. It is very, very chilling. And I urge you, reach out to your congressman, reach out to your senator. You know, I credit whatchamacallit. I credit AOC of all people that she actually stepped up and said, I'm saying no on this. This is wrong. This is not right.
I mean, honestly, like, you got to give credit where credit is due. And if on that she was right, she was right. Of course, you know, her horse face is plastered all over TikTok, so you know it does benefit her. But
I mean, that's her first TikTok video. She actually opened a TikTok account to do that, to basically come out against the whole Restrict Act. But yeah,
well, I'm just saying that other people use AOC and
right.
TikToks and memes and stuff like that. You know, the political side of TikTok, which, by the way, is far left. You're not allowed to espouse anything but far left. But once again, everybody knows that, and you can make that decision going on that platform. And when you know, Joe remembers, he saw me when I had my TikTok and that was rolling. And the second, and all my videos on there, they're not expressing any opinions. The second I express
14 million followers or something.
2 point something million. But the point of the matter is that
that's great.
Yeah, whatever it is. The point of the matter is those was boring videos without an opinion, just telling you legal shit. Like, don't talk to the fucking cops. No shit, Sherlock. Right? Don't talk to the fucking cops. Right? It's basic. You're arrested. You're in trouble. The cops are not your fucking friends. Like, it's not ambiguous. That's something that all of us know. I think everybody in the chat kind of gets that.
This was before Andrew evolved by interacting with Nick
now,
and
yes, by absorbing their baseness. But you know,
he looks so nervous, and he looks so. You need to go to his TikTok account and check it out before they ban TikTok.
Before they ban it,
before it all gets yanked down, make sure you go to TikTok.
I showed the video with Cam a lot. I'm on the scoot in a suit, and I'm like, I am ashamed of what I did. I'm ashamed of this human being.
Make sure you don't talk to the police. It's a terrible idea. It's a
terrible idea. Don't do it. It's bad. I would go around Miami filming, like, I think we'd do it on the weekend, and I'd film like 30 TikToks a day, and then you'd span them out.
It was great.
Fucking horrible.
Great.
Because
but that should have transitioned. It's something you need to say. Check out YouTube. Check out my YouTube for more
doesn't
detail.
Matter. People don't do it because they don't care about that. Right?
Because they only want the 30 seconds.
They want the 30 seconds, and they're flipping, and they're flipping. Same with reels. They're flipping. They're little you know, unevolved monkeys just flipping the script on their little tablet, right? It's bad. And once you express that opinion, by the way, because I think I put out 1 or 2 videos I actually had to delete because they were reported, right, for having an opinion on anything mildly political, mildly controversial, especially regarding the jab, the mandates, the lockdowns. Those got hit. They were the first one to censor. Right before the other part, they were way out there ahead.
Really?
So yes, that was a big thing. Right here, Stormcrow sent for $10. The judge who sentenced the Rosenbaums to deletion was Jewish. Well, we'll have to do a deep dive. I believe actually they called. I looked this one up. I think they called the judge the Pope, the Pope, because he actually went to Fordham, but at Fordham he studied the Christian doctrine classes, and he actually mastered all of his Christian classes. But honestly, I think that's something that's pretty important. Look, when I was studying to go in seminary, I tried to learn as much as I could about Islam, about Judaism, about Buddhism. It's about other comparative religions because I want to know about the religious traditions and the truths that they may have that sync up with my particular religion. So particularly for Judaism and Christianity, I think those two are very intertwined. So I think learning about each other's religion in that aspect actually helps both. I think people are well served by learning about both traditions, especially if you're a Christian. So, or Jewish. I mean, it goes the other way. Okay, so there's one little thing I want to talk to you about. This is as we move towards wrapping up here. This is something Nick put out, but I didn't know if you caught this one, and he dropped this somewhere, which is this law that got snuck into the spending bill mandating interlocks on all cars. So apparently within 3 years, every new car has to have some sort of anti-drunk driving device. Every new car. Now, of course, once again, this is one of those new car things, like, when the cars come out and they have to have a backup cam. But it's buried on page 135 of $1 trillion spending bill. To me, this is just like, how the fuck are they going to, how is it like, how are they going to do? I mean, we got enough problems and we're going to be, I don't know how you prevent drunk driving. It's like you have an once again, you have an interlock on the car. That's pretty much the only way that's reliable.
South Park had a whole thing on this.
Did they? I didn't watch on drunk driving.
No, like if there's a clip, it's like 80 seconds long. I don't know if you'll get like demonetized if you share it.
Yes.
Probably they're probably aggressive. I have a feeling they're very aggressive.
No, I've done it before in the past. South Park is not going to fly.
Yeah, if you check out their thing on the IT bike. Okay. Where basically,
see if I can probably mute it. That might work.
Yeah, you know what? If it's muted, that might work.
I think if I mute this, it's probably not going to go through.
Right, and you could start like 30 seconds into it also out of that 87 out of that 80s.
Okay. Is there okay, Joe, I'm going to ask you this in good faith. Are there any penises in this one?
No.
Okay, this is not sexual content. Okay, so
well, I didn't say that.
God damn it, Joe. Joe's trying to yeet my channel, guys. So before Joe yeets my channel, smash the like button. We're at 526.
He's introducing. Here. What's this character's name? I always forget.
This is was it Mr.
The chat will know in a second.
Oh gosh, I forget. I'll put the closed captions. I think they're on right now. Okay. Well, they're unavailable. Is this Mr. Hand?
Yeah, that's what I think maybe.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah. So he's basically introducing this new bicycle that can go 300 miles per hour and doesn't have any like carbon emissions or something like that. And so he has his scientist friend in here who basically going to help you walk through it. And and that's it. And you control the braking and stopping.
Oh no!
By basically with the two hand levers.
Joe, this is like the bike from It's Always Sunny. If you've seen that one, Mac's bike from It's Always Sunny with the fist that surfaces to motivate you to bike harder.
And basically, in order to like direct it, you have to like basically stick that thing in your mouth and like and then like the seat is shaped basically like something that no man ever wants to sit on.
Yes,
and that basically that's the idea that you should be forced to stick your mouth onto like a breathalyzer. When he shared this with me, I don't know if you're in that chat there. I was like, they should be worried that people will be drinking while they're driving and make you like breathe into it again every 5 minutes, so that in order to keep the car running.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the Max bike with the fist that surfaces, this is the equivalent. Totally normal here. Anyways, on that note, guys, make sure you're subscribed to Good Logic. I will be back on his channel next week. I absolutely love hanging out with Joe. This is always so much fun. Yes. Like every time I go with Joe, I have a great time. And honestly, like guys, we don't script this. This is pretty much unscripted. We just pick the news of the day. We run through it. Joe gets my opinion. I get my opinion. We make fun of each other. We have great fun. And we've been riding together since the beginning, right? So I just really appreciate Joe.
We're over a year of doing this.
Yeah,
we've been doing this since before the Depp trial. So this
and
is
we've survived a lot of shit. Like there's been a lot of shit that's gone down.
A lot of drama that's gone down.
A lot of bullshit, and we're still hanging out. Like, and that's why I give Joe credit. A lot of people are they're scared. They can't step in the arena, but Joe never runs away from it. Joe fucking embraces.
But I do need to give you a heads up, and I'm going to tell your audience here as well.
Sure.
The next 2 Thursdays, I'm going to be dealing with Passover. So we're going to be taking a 2-week hiatus, and I'll have you back on my show 3 weeks from tonight, God willing.
Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3. I'll be in Bangkok that time, but I will stream with you.
If you want to do 4 weeks, we can push back. But the next,
we'll see.
We'll see. So
if I'm on a plane, then I'll let you know. But if not, we'll do it in 4 weeks. So guys, throw a like on this for Passover. Throw a little bit of love in there, whether you're doing it for Passover or maybe Easter, whatever, you can do whatever you want.
Easter too.
Yeah.
Either way, and they're both good reasons.
Joseph says right here, you guys are great together like chocolate and peanut butter, but who's who? I know Joe's chocolate.
That's what all the ladies say.
Take it easy. Catch you later. And I will see you. By the way, tomorrow, make sure if you want to check out my channel, Go East, I'll be doing an AMA on that channel. So check out that one, Go East. That one I'll be doing an AMA on my new channel if anybody's interested in Asia. So that being said, take care.